31.
31, that's correct. Tesvayin Ralph. Okay, the Mishnah had said on page 30 on Daf Tesvayin base, the Mishnah had said that it Mipnei Takana, the cryptic words of Mipnei Takana. It sounded like that we don't know exactly what the words of Mipnei Takana were going on. Whether it's going on a kula or a chumrah. So first one says ma'ibnei takana. So he says that the Gemara wants to say that it's a chumrah. Right? The reason why Rabbi Yossi parcels having blank form getting left around is, says Rabbi Shabsai b'shem Rechizkiah mibnei takanas benos social yimitzu mitzias l'skarsh. In order to rectify the situation for daughters of Israel, that it will not be so easy to divorce them, so therefore you can't have form getting lying around, so that it's not so simple to divorce. You have to write the get from scratch. Says Mar, no, that's not the way to read the Mishnah. Rabbi Shmuel bar Rav Yitzchak shol Rabbi Chir baba shol Yitzchak aser Chir baba kosher. Mibnei takana seems to be a reason to be machshir. In fact, it's not going to Rabbi who says that for get forms are possible. It's going on. It seems to be going on the halacha that one is allowed to leave forms around. So how could it be a reason to be makel to leave forms around? So it says the Gemara. Well, first we have to get through a couple more lines before we get to the answer. Ashur Rabbi Yitzchak Shol Rabbi Chia Barba kosher. Mibnei takana is the reason to say the forms are kosher. And you say that it's in order to prevent Jewish girls from getting divorced. Of course, it'll make divorce more likely. If you're going to say that Mibnei takana is the reason to parcel, then that would be true. But the way they understood, for some reason, Mibnei takana, it says the Mishnah is not a reason to parcel, but a reason to be machshir. So, Maikadu, what would be a reason to be machshir? If a reason to be machshir, writing forms ahead of time, because I'm Rabbi Avun say for the good of the cipher, of the scribe. In other words, when he has slack period, he'll write forms up, and that way he'll have forms around when the time comes to actually give whatever document we're talking about. Now, Rizir B'Shem and Rav Huna B'Shem Rav said, Halacha Rabbi that one may not write forms by Gittin. Rabbi Lezer said, like Rabbi Lezer, by other documents, that one may do forms by other documents. B'Shtoros by other documents other than get. So it says more, why do you have to say halachas like Rabbi Yehuda by get, like Rabbi Lezer B'Shtoros? No more like Rabbi Lezer, just say halachas like Rabbi Lezer. Rabbi Lezer himself in the Mishnah had said that by all other documents you can write up pre-printed forms except for Gittin Noshim. So Rabbi Lezer himself had made this point. Why do you have to say halachas like Rabbi Lezer by other stars, Rabbi Yehuda by Gittin? Rabbi Lezer himself had drawn that distinction between Gittin and other stars. And that's one question. No more look Rabbi Lezer. Rabbi B'Shem Rav said, halacha Rabbi Lezer begittin, Rabbi Yehuda b'shtaros. Rabbi Ba, name of Rav, also said a different version, but really the same idea. Halacha Rabbi Lezer by Gittin, that the Gittin are no good. It's like Rabbi Yehuda by other shtaros, that by shtaros also it's no good. Actually, it's not the same. It's not a different version. It's different. He's saying that by no star is it ever good to have a form ahead of time. Like Rabbi Yehuda said, no star ever may be pre-printed. So if that's the case, why can't you just say no more look Rabbi Yehuda? Why did you throw in Rabbi Lezer? He meant to say halachas like Rabbi Yehuda, didn't he? Rabbi Yehuda is the one who says it's possible by all shtaros. So why do you have to throw in Rabbi Lezer? So both of the poskim who weighed in on this decision here in the Gemara said a confusing language. They said halachas like Rabbi Lezer by X, and halachas Rabbi Yehuda by Y. They're different in which area, domain, halachas like Rabbi Lezer, which domain, the halachas like Rabbi Yehuda. But Lamaisa, either one of them could have gone away with saying something else. The first place they could have said halachas like Rabbi Lezer, because Rabbi Lezer draws that dichotomy between Gittin, which are no good, and other stars which are good, like the first place they weighs in. And the other post could have gotten away with saying halachas Rabbi Yehuda, because Rabbi Yehuda says, the one that says that we never allow pre-printed forms, so that he didn't have to. Neither of them had to mention the opposing viewpoint. So there's more. I'll tell you why they had to mention it if you have the opposing viewpoint. Why is that? El begin the Rabbi Shmuel Tarvaya Armin, since Rabbi Shmuel both said halacha Rabbi Lezer begittin. It doesn't say begittin in the Gemara, but it should. The Korban Eidah throws that in. Since they both said halacha Rabbi Lezer begittin, they stress that Logos like Rabbi Gittin, meaning that one cannot write a pre-printed get. Do not think that a Logos like Rabbi Lezer across the board, right? So Rabbi the beginning say there say Logos like Rabbi the by Gittin, or Rabbi Lezer b'shtaros, and like Rabbi Lezer by other documents. Meaning, we would have thought that Logos, if you would have said Logos like Rabbi Lezer in Gittin, I would say, well, Logos like Lezer by Gittin, that they're no good. But Halacha is not like Rabbi Lezer elsewhere. And if I would have said also the same way, if I would have said Logos like Rabbi by one area, I would have not, since there is machlokas, I would have said, well, perhaps not elsewhere. So therefore, in order to stress their positions, each one says, I know there's somebody who argues, I want to clarify it by saying that halacha is like X by A, and halacha is like Y by B. And halacha, according to the other B, halacha is like Y by A, and halacha is like X by B, in order to clarify that there shouldn't be any mistakes. Okay? Says more further, the Mishnah further. Turn the page to test line on base. I maybe get. If somebody brings a get, and the get got lost. If you found the get immediately kosher, then the get is kosher. If not possible, because we're afraid that it might be somebody else's get. What if you found it in some sort of a bundle, or some sort of pouch, which was you knew was sealed, and you had a simon in it, so then it's okay. Also, in Makir, if you recognize the get itself, that's also kosher. Maybe get, if somebody brings a get, if you left the person who sent the get sick or elderly or sick, no law, you still give the get on the assumption that the individual is still alive. If you have, therefore, if you have a girl who's a Bas Yisrael is married to a Kohen, Volach Barum Dinas Yam, and her husband went to Chutz La'aretz, and it's not a question of get, but a question where he went to Chutz La'aretz and she wants to continue to eat Truma. Ochela, she can continue to eat Truma, b'chezka shu kayam, on the basis of the assumption that he is still alive. Hasholech chatos min Yisrael, and vice versa. Somebody sends a chatos from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael. Makrino, so we sacrifice the Beis Hamikdash b'chezka shu kayam on the assumption that the fellow is still alive, and therefore the chatos is a valid korban.
Does the get have cheskas kashrus if it's been left?
No, loses cheskas kashrus have been lost. I mean, not immediately. It was in a certain amount of time. The Gemara now gives the shiur. Ezuel asar. What's considered to be the immediately? Rabbi Yonasan so Yochanan Amar Kol Shelo Avar Shambir, as long as nobody has passed by there. Rabbi Yaakov Bar Yidin, Rabbi Shimon Bar Abba, Rabbi Shimon Levi said, not that stringent. Kol Shelo Avar Sham Shloshim Bnei Adam. As long as 3 people have passed by, we assume it's still the same get. Avar Goy. Does the goy count? And the reason why a goy shouldn't count this is because what's a goy doing with the get? It's very unlikely that a goy was carrying a get and dropped the get. So Nishmini Medo, let's hear it from here. Bar Chana, Isaac Gita, Chana brought a get, Ubad Mine, and he lost it. Vashkechei Kad Sirke, and was found by a certain Arab who returned it to him. So as Uvda Kum Rabbi Yochanan, from the episode came Rabbi Yochanan, Va'ach Shirun, and he said that the get was kosher. Hadar Marad, this teaches us Eved or a goy, if the person who passed by was an Eved or a goy, kosher. Right? Because here, even if he picked it up, it's considered to be still valid get. Alachas kama, if you just passed by and didn't pick it up, then the get is still considered to be kosher. Okay? So in any event, we see that this is not a problem. Says more, no, who says? Maybe it is a problem. Neymar Simon Avalebe. Maybe he had a simon in the get, and that's why I knew it says. But even though really, if a guy or passes by, it's also a problem. But here, maybe he had a simon in the get. Says, well, what simon would he have? For locating time, did we learn ain't simon Gittin? There's no such thing as a simon by a get. Says Mora, no. When is there no simon by a get? When he says train a pleasure in a poor simon, when he says there were 2 or 3 lines in the get, nowadays our customs write 12 lines in the get, but when he said there are 2 or 3 lines in the get, and he didn't actually have that's not called simon muvak, it's not called a a definitive simon. So that type of simon we don't trust by a get. However, in this case, Bram Hacha, in this case, Hey Shabo, there was some Hey in the get Shoya Nakud, which had a dot in it, or according to some people of the Girsa Nakuv, that it had a hole in it. So that's a far superior simon, and that simon is sufficient in order to assume that the get is actually yours. So this case we're talking about is a case where there was a simon, perhaps, and not a case necessarily where the fact that a goy passed through was not a problem. No, maybe a goy passing through, suddenly a goy picking up and giving it to you is a problem. That's a unique case because there was a simon which you have in the get. Okay? Rabbi Ezra boy Kuli Raimana. Rabbi Ezra asked in front of Raimana. Hacha lama hu pasul. I don't understand the whole Mishnah. Why is the pasul over here? But it must be because Ani Omer, I say, Acher Hoya Sham, that there was somebody else who was there. V'Hayu Shmo Kishmo, and it had that individual had the same name as he did, and of course his wife had the same name as his wife. That must be the problem, because otherwise, what is the problem? Haga. So that's the case. Let's imagine the following case: where where they checked the entire locality. They found no, but on the other individual, Shmo, where his name is like the name in this written in this get. And there's no other woman who has the same name as his wife. So how come the get is pasul in that case? So it says, I know why the get is pasul. Let's say why the get is pasul. The taka shouldn't be pasul. It's rather gzeira d'rabbanan. Mishum chomer hu ba'arayas. It's a stringency which you have by arayas, that even though normally we should say that in such a case, if you clarify that there's nobody else with the same name here, it should be kosher, but this is a get, and a get is a matter of arayas, and a matter which has to do with arayas, we're much more stringent. Okay, so that's why we don't say the get is kosher. So it says Gemara, I don't understand why is this more stringent than the case in case of Yivamis. But here the Yivamis hochuv lamatu shama adam. If you were, this is the very end of Yivamis. It says that if you went and you found, you heard an individual saying, "I'm dying, and my wife is so and so. She should be muteris because I'm dying." So if he says that, they hear somebody making that pronouncement, and they run to within the direction where they heard their announcement made. They went and they couldn't find anybody there. But they married off his wife nonetheless. So we rely even on a basco, right? Even on a voice which you heard, a disembodied voice which we never actually identified who it was. And it's another case where they went and they found a body, but it wasn't a body which they recognized. But since he had given the directive and said he was about to die, they were married off his wife. So that's the case over here. How come we're so machmir? If there, where the Tzarayas too, we're more makel, and we say rely just on the voice, which they heard, that the guy's saying that it was him. So over here, let's rely also on the fact that the guy says that this is the same get, and there is nobody else in the vicinity. Why does that not suffice, right? So it says, what's the problem? What's the problem? Okay. Ramana said, Kain Amar Rabbi Shmuel Baracha. So Rabbi Shmuel Baracha said that we have a very remote chashash. None of this is really in the Bavli. We have a very remote chashash, which is Aisha Zeh, a very remote suspicion that Aisha Zeh, maybe this guy Shneki no you be old. In other words, of course, this is that the guy can tell us it's not the case, but because of such a case, we made a decree that wherever there's lost get, we don't rely on the get. Why is that? Because there's a possibility, it's conceivable that the shliach had two kitten. Well, it's not just shliach; the husband could have two kitten. Echa kosher ve'echa posel. One of them was a kosher get, one was a posel get. So needless to say, he should throw away the posel one. What?
Why would he have a posel?
He was going to throw it away, but he didn't get around to it yet. It's very unlikely. You're right. The truth is that it's he might be keeping it. One of the Mefarshim says here, I think the Korban, it says that he might keep it in order to use to cover his clothes. Cover not his clothes, cover his food. In the old days they didn't have aluminum foil or saran wrap, and paper was very expensive, so therefore they would save old documents in order to cover their food. So it could be he was saving it for that purpose. So, what? It's economical. That's right. Recycling. So it says the Soler will say even as a kosher, maybe he lost the kosher get. V'yishlichus apostle, and he threw away eventually the apostle get. And b'shasha matzah, when he finds now the get, and the oimer, I say apostle matzah, he found the apostle one. Now, of course, it's a very difficult chashash, but that's the one it says because of such a remote case, which is possible. So that's what we ask in all cases, to where a guy loses a get. So really, it wouldn't be a problem in and of itself, the fact that the guy lost the get, except it's a problem that maybe there's going to be situations where he loses a get which is possible, and then he'll use a get which is kosher, so that's why we made a blanket decree. It's very strong, there.
But let's say in the case only had one get the whole time.
Right, so we say lo pluk, even when a guy only had one get the whole time, we still passel.
What's or ever come to the reason why a guy or Eved is passes to get?
Because they're afraid he switched it. Unless he had a simon.
He's a guy in an Arab.
It's a chumrah. The maker din we shouldn't be choshish for it, but that's a chumrah here. Yeah.
That story that he had a get something in his test, and the guy brought it back.
But he had a simon in it. That's why we accepted it. Not because the guy was trusted or because the guy is not a problem. It's only because here there was a unique solution.
So we see, that's how he knows that it's his get. Because if there's a simon in it and he loses it, then
it is. It is. Yeah. Only in that case. Otherwise, it's not okay. That's exactly what we're saying. There's a little hey, I didn't look it up, but there's a little hey, if you look at the first line of the Gemara, Kosh Lov Ashambria, which seems to indicate that's why he paskin. Normally, nobody can pass the by there, and only then if he runs back and gets it is okay. But even if a guy passes by, it seems that according to by the place in little hay, that that no good's no good. Okay, says the Gemara. Now let's get back on the Mishnah. The Mishnah said if a man sends a get to his wife and he's very old, so we still give the get and we assume he was still alive. Taibak was exaggerated this in the extreme. He said, even the guy who left behind was 100 years old. And you spend 100 years on the way. This is really the slow boat. So now it's 100 years after he gave the get. And he himself was 100 years old. 200 years have elapsed. Well, it's 100 years have elapsed. The guy is assumed to be 200 years old. State, because he has the chazaka.
Jesus, okay. I never heard of the guy. We have a chazaka that nobody lives over 120.
Where do we have such a chazaka?
People.
You just made it up.
Fine, people vote.
Probability more people alive to eat than kids.
Yeah.
But how many people are alive over 120 that have?
If you live to 100, might as well make it to 120.
It's not your head.
What?
It's not.
I understand. Seriously speaking, obviously also the chazaka overcomes any difficulty until we hear otherwise. Of course, it's tremendous chiddush way of saying. You think I like it, but that's what Bar Kapar is saying. The chazaka over a chazaka trumps any other reckoning. That's what he's saying. Okay? So says the Gemara, wait a second. How can you say this? But the Gemara is not going to ask a question you would like to ask. Says the Gemara, we learn, somebody says to his wife, this is your get. Leave name Misasi before I die, Sha'achas 1 hour. In other words, it should take effect 1 hour before my death. Some do, so he says, maid servant, this is your bill of release. Leave name Misasi Sha'achas for 1 hour before I die. Shiasura lochol b'truma miyad. In both these cases, she's a wife of a kohen, but she herself is not a kohen. She's a shivcha of a kohen, obviously not a kohen herself. She's not permitted to eat truma immediately. Why? Because they're afraid it's going to die. So over there, it's a well-known question. Over there, we're afraid he's going to die, and then we bar from eating truma immediately. Whereas over here, we're not afraid the guy is going to die, and therefore we give the guy, we give his wife again. Even 100 years later, how can you say such a thing, right? What's the, why is there a difference over that? Over there, she has to desist from eating truma immediately, and by here, we consume that the guy's continuously alive. So that's a very beautiful answer. Tamon mishar rishon and niskalkula. Here, or rather there, and when you give your wife a get, and it should take effect an hour before your death, it might be that right now you're an hour before your death. You don't know when you're going to die. So therefore you already might be in that hour. So there's never a chazaka established. The chazaka...
Didn't you say any tanoim?
Still in a chazaka, you're going to be alive.
What?
Tanoim in the get is no good. It's just not in the get.
It's not a tanai in the get.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a tanai at all. It's a tanai. It's a reality. Either it's alive or dead. It's not conditional.
Well, she's probably dead too after all.
Yeah, okay. You get the idea. What? No, so it's a beautiful svara. Up there, it's there from the time that the get was given. She might already well be divorced, because it might be the hour of forced death. So no chazaka is ever established. But here, in the case where the get was given when he was definitely alive and wasn't predated to an hour before his death, and right now he's definitely alive. So therefore, in that case, we continue to maintain the chazak with which we began. Now, I didn't have time to look up the Gemaras in the Bavli, but I don't recall such an answer from the Bavli. The question is asked in the Yerushalmi, in the Bavli as well, by this, what's between the case of a guy who gives a get 1 hour before his death and this case here. Maybe it is the same answer. I don't remember. Give me a get and I'll tell you what they say. I don't remember offhand. If I knew, I would say. A get given an hour before the death? It's a valid get. She can't eat truma anymore. Because maybe he's going to die now, within an hour. Okay, so she loses. There's no chazaka being definitely being alive an hour before death. So chazaka being alive, but there's no chazaka being an hour before death. Okay? More than an hour before death. How long? What?
You've been an hour. You've already been hours before your death.
So
there's chazaka that if you're already chazaka, then you have an hour before your death. Other times, why not now?
If the chazaka you're alive, it's not ever chazaka you're an hour before death. Who knows? The chazaka can tell me. Chazaka can say this guy's not dead, right? But chazaka can say it's more than an hour before his death. Chazaka tells us when we're mesupuk about something, we use the previous status quo. But he never was in a status of definitely being, there's no such thing as status of being an hour before death.
Also, he could have been less than an hour before death when he gave the get. So,
in which case the get is null and void.
So, how do we know ever if he's...
We're mafreya. Only when we find out later on, then we find out that what took place an hour ago.
In the meantime, she can still...
No, she can't even shemi suffer.
It's a valid get anyway. She's right with that.
True. We're always going to be mesupuk. What the paskin in such a case? That's right.
So when you said it was null and void, it was good.
It's good, but you will only know the effect of the hour an hour after he dies. It's a good get, but it takes effect only an hour before he dies. When is that? We don't know. The way.
So if it was less than an hour before he dies, and he gave it to me, then what?
It won't be a valid get.
Even
after he dies, because there was no hour until he died. There's I think the way the Bible answers like this, if I recall correctly. The Bible says, no, it's okay. Shema meis lo arminan, Shema yomus arminan. That's what the Bible says. We never assume the guy died, but we're afraid he's gonna die. So in this case, it's not enough, which maybe it's the same answer, just saying it differently. It's not enough in this case knowing that he's alive. You have to know that he's not going to die within the next hour. So that you can't say. You can only say that he's not dead, but you can't say he's not going to die during the next hour. Because that really is using chazaka not to establish what's going on right now, but to establish events in the future. So that you can't use the chazaka to establish. No. I don't know, maybe it's the same answer, that you can't, it's just like over here it says that, well, it's not the same answer, obviously, from language is different. Here we say that the problem is that from now, she's never established a chazaka, as opposed to a case where the get was given, the death is the problem, then we establish a chazaka that he's alive. The Bible is saying differently. The Bible is saying that chazaka cannot predict the future. So therefore you can't shema meis. Lord, we don't assume he's already dead, but we're afraid that maybe he will die. Chazaka can't predict that future event. So it actually is a very different process. Why should it be possible? She should be possible from true always. Why should the get be possible?
No, why? We're saying that we assume that he's going to die. Yeah?
No, we just don't know he's not going to die. There's no chazaka he's not going to die, but he might be alive and he might die. Who knows? So therefore, we have to say the get is in limbo. She's in limbo. That's what it is. The bottom line is she's in limbo. Limbo means a state of question, uncertainty. Okay. And halacha d'al-katzid is the same way. Shlosha dvarim Amar Rabbi Elazar and Parto. Why was this getting too early for you?
There's always some economic thing going on.
No more Sheva brachas? Okay.
Extended
Sheva brachas. Okay.
Must be some shit that'll cut off the price that Shlukish relied on.
30 days.
30 days?
Yeah. Okay. By the way, on Shiva Sarva Thomas Idam here 8:05. If you want to learn, if anybody is available to them, we could start at say about 7:15 or so. It's up to you guys if you can make it. If you honestly can't make it, it's okay. We don't have to learn it. No, it's chaybus. Okay. Okay, fine.
We also daven 7:15 in the morning. I mean, we daven 7:15 in the morning.
Yeah. No, we don't learn. We daven 7:15 in the morning.
Daven 7:15.
Davening will be 7:15. Sure, something. A little before.
6:15.
Yeah.
6:15.
No, that's they're talking about the Bavli Daf Yomi.
Okay, I was all about 15.
Yeah, here we learn 7:15 in the evening. Okay, Shloshet Dvarim Amar Rabbi Elazar and Parto Lifnei Chachamim. Three things are said by Elazar and Parto in front of Chachamim, Yekimus Dvarav, and they sustained that which he said. Alir Shekifu Karkom, the city surrounded by a siege. While Sfinam Terevis Bayam, a boat which is going, which is in a gale at sea, and it's being obviously crazed around. And somebody's going out to be judged. They're considered to be alive. All the individuals in this situation are considered to be alive. But if a city's actually been conquered by some army, which had laid siege to it, and a boat which is lost at sea, somebody who's actually going out to be killed, not being allowed to be judged. At that point, he's lost his chazaka, he's alive. There's such a strong reisa, such a strong question in the chazaka that he's lost his chezkas chaim. And if it's a bas kohen Yisrael, if it's a bas kohen married to Yisrael, or bas Yisrael, I skipped. Because the severity of if they're alive, and severity if they're dead. So bas kohen Yisrael, if it's bas kohen married to Yisrael, the severity is to say that he's alive, and she could still not eat truma. If it's a bas Yisrael kohen, severity is to say that he's dead, and therefore lo tochal b'truma, so he's both dead and alive at the same time. Ezu karkom, it's a karkom. So Rabbi Boy B'Shem Rechia Barashi going Zugin, they put up bells, B'Shalshos, and chains, Uklavim, and dogs, V'Avazim, and geese, V'Tarnigolim, and roosters, V'Stratios, and legions. Hamakivim this year, they surround the city. Now the reason we have all these things, the bells and the whistles and the stuff, is because that may, if somebody tries to escape the city, so it'll make noise, and people are going to, the besiegers will know to pursue him. Okay? Rabbi Ba said, B'Shem Rabbi Chia Barashi, you know what? But Maisa, why we make it? Why we say the guy is still considered to be alive? Maisa ya ubarach misham suma echad. Because once there was a case where a guy fled. Now this kid, even though he was blind, by the way. Now what's the difference? Whether one guy fled or not. So we say this, really the Ikar Sugi is in Ksuvas. And we had this in Ksuvas in the Yerushalmi, that if it's possible for the city, so every wife of a Kohen in the city can say, I fled. Even if she doesn't say I fled, she had a migo to say that she fled. And therefore she doesn't become usher to her husband. Because normally a woman who's taken to captivity is usher to her husband, but not this woman, because she has, since there were certain people who were able to flee, so therefore she has the migo that she could have fled. Okay? So it really is not directly relevant to our sugya. Since she could have, because she could have lied and said I fled, since fleeing was possible in that situation. So even though she didn't lie, if she says I didn't flee, but I'm tohera, I was not raped, then she still can get away with that taina. Okay, that's how amigo works here. Okay. So it says the Gemara, and similarly, Chayes Shampir Tzal says one break in the siege, Matzel says a call that saves all the wives of Kohen from becoming hostile husbands. If there was one hiding place that it's a question whether we could say that all the women used that hiding place in turn, or only this one woman could use the hiding place. We don't believe each individual woman in the city that she was the one who was there. Rabbi Zira and Rabbi Barzati, Rabbi Yehuda Bar Kuloi, also b'shem Rabbi Yehuda Messiah. The only time we're afraid that maybe the girls were the Kohanos were raped, it was the Bar Karkom Shaloso Malchus. It's only if it was a siege laid by the army of the same king who's in charge of the city. But if it's a siege laid by an army coming from another kingdom, so Kalisarim then like bandits. And bandits who say they have no time to passel the women, because they want to take the money and run. So too, it depends who lays the siege. If it's local siege people, then it's really bad. But if it's foreign siege people, we say that they're compelled by the Spindel doctrine, and therefore they're not concerned with women, they're concerned with money. And since they're concerned with money, so therefore they want to get out of there as soon as possible. So that's why they're not going to cause any problems for the women, right? They speak French. What do you mean, how can we tell they're foreigners?
Speak with a funny accent.
Yeah. Yes.
Different color armband.
Yes. There are different flags. They added 3 more, where there are cases where we don't know if they're alive, but then we have to be macher both ways. One which a person was dragged away by an animal. B and the horror person was swept away by a river. C he was fell upon him an avalanche. Notice of Chumrei Chaim, Chumrei Mesa, we assume they might be alive, might be dead, we do not know. Give them the Chumras of both, and Bas Yisrael Kohen, if it's Bas Yisrael married to Kohen, or Bas Kohen Yisrael, or Torah B'Truma, they don't need B'Truma because they're macher in both accounts. Let me just get a drink. 1 second. Right back. Okay. Halach Dal. Oh, he just said, sorry. Maybe get Eretz Yisrael. So he brought again Eretz Yisrael v'chol, and he got sick. He sends it with somebody else. Now the thing is, Im Amar Lo, if the Mishalech, the guy giving the get, said to the Shliach, totally mimenu chayvetz ploni, bring me back, something from Rikas, let's say ring, he wants back from her. So then, Lo Yishachan B'Yarach, then the original Shliach has to do it. Can't nobody else to do it. She'ein Ratzon Asher B'Gdor B'Yarach, he doesn't want his valuable object given over to somebody else. So Choshen Mishpat are actually more macher, because in Choshen Mishpat there's a shomer element, right? By get there is no shomer element. So therefore, by get, if the Shliach becomes sick, he can give it over to another Shliach to complete his shichus. By taking back an object, the Choshen Mishpat aspect of Shmira, and that is only entrusted to the person to whom it's entrusted, not to anybody else. Okay? So in Neshachol, it says in Mishnah that the Shliach can appoint another Shliach because he got sick. Okay, now says the Gemara, maybe now if he didn't get sick. So it must be that the special dispensation Chazal gave, but only in case of sickness, there's no blanket permission to make another shliach. That's a period now. Now comes the new issue. We're going back to the Sefer where he said, bring me back something. So in that case, you can't change shlichus. Leisa da pliga. Now doesn't this argue, now I'm going to change Rabbi Yochanan to Reish Lakish, Shari Teres Yisrael does it because it makes more sense. Leisa da pliga or Reish Lakish doesn't argue Reish Lakish. Again, the Reish Lakish on Reish Lakish said, Shomer Shemasa L'Shomer. If a Shomer gave something to a second Shomer, it should be instead of Harishon, this is Korban 8, it says, Hasheni Chayev. The second guy is liable. That means that if the second guy is liable, so then what do you care that he gave it over to the second guy? If the first guy is not liable, the second guy will be liable, right? So Shomer Shemas Shomer would be okay according to Reish Lakish. Our Mishnah seems to argue. Our Mishnah says Shomer Shemas Shomer is not applicable by Gittin. The guy who's original shliach has to fill shlichus. Why? So this is more fascinating answer. Rabbi Breder of Bechila said B'shum T'nai Gittin. It's as if when he said, "I want you to take back the object of me," it's as if he's making condition in the get itself. And say the get is only valid if you yourself bring back the object which I insist on being delivered back to me. Says more Manafik Beinehon. What's the difference if we say that it's a t'nai in the get, or if we say it's just a shomer shemasa a shomer question? And let's say it would be going like Rabbi Yochanan, who says shomer shemasa the shomer. Harishon chayiv. The first guy is chayiv because he should never have given it to the second shomer, because the second shomer doesn't have the same sense of responsibility. So what's the difference if we say that it's an issue of a Tanai get or an issue of Shomer Shemazah Shomer? Very simple. If the husband went and took it himself, the object, before the shliach got there with the divorce writ. So, if you say it's a Tanai Gittin, that the husband appointed this shliach, and in order to cement that it should only be the shliach, he said, I want you to bring in such an object. So in that case, Yos, it's talking not a good get than if it's lost in the middle, because it's not a good. Now you can't give it to another shliach because he was makbid that dafka this shliach should be the one to deliver it. However, in Tamar, if you're going to say the reason is not because of Tanai by get, but rather because that I don't want somebody else holding on to my object. I want you to hold on to it. In this case, you can't be makbid. It's not in anybody's hands except his own, because he himself, the husband, went and got the property. So that would be the nafkamina. In the case of the husband himself, went and got the object. So if you're going to say that the issue is shomer shemasa shomer, obviously shomer shemasa shomer no longer applies. That's when it's in the shmira realm. But here it actually has reached the owner, so therefore there's no shomer issue. But if you're going to say that the issue is one, as we said before, that it's Tanai in the get, right? So then it's Tanai in the get would mean that not only was the Tanai get that dafka this shliach should bring back the object, but Tanai get was even if that shliach doesn't bring back the object, that Lamaisi's got to be the one to deliver the get, and therefore the get would remain possible under those circumstances. Okay. Now it says the Gemara now goes on, but I think the next Gemara should be after the next Mishnah. So therefore I'm going to read the next Mishnah and come back. Last night the Gemara, nobody says that except me, but as you know, that doesn't stop me at all. It says Marlachava, maybe somebody brings again for chutzlaretz, v'chol, and he got sick. Now this is the principle for was he got sick in Eretz Yisrael. Guy was bringing get internally in Eretz Yisrael. Now he's bringing get for chutzlaretz, and he got sick. Ois a basin, he makes a basin, and he sends the get, and he gives, and he designates somebody else to bring the get. It says in front of the basin, before Nechtam was written inside and written inside in front of me. The second shliach was taken over for the first shliach who got sick. Does not say for Nechtam. Ella Oimer, he just says shliach basin on it. He says on shliach basin, and basin analyze the situation. So it's interesting that he doesn't say I'm the shliach of the to say okay, he can't say for Nechtam would be a lie. So he says that I was made a shliach by Beis Din. Now let's go back. It says the Gemara, the third line from the front on top of the Mishnah. So it says Apikidushin Kain, so the way the Korban A changes, it says Apikidushin Eino Kain. By Kiddushin, you can't give over the shliach to somebody else, even if he got sick. That's it, he can't go over the shliach. In other words, Reuben sent him Mekadosh Sora, and he got sick. He can't go over to the third party. So why? What's the between Gittin and Kiddushin? Why can't he give it over to the third party there, just like he gives it over by Gittin? So it says more fascinating answer. Biyad kol adam motzui legarish. A person can send his get with anybody. Okay, anybody can be megarish on behalf of the husband, because you can be a megarish woman against her will. You just make sure she gets the get and understands what she's getting. And the get, although I'm not sure Korban actually means this, but I want to throw this in, and I think it's true. The get is actually exchanging hands, right? In other words, it's going from shliach to shliach. So it's going from shliach to shliach, so therefore, the first shliach, the second shliach gets the power of the first shliach, so the third shliach gets the power of the second shliach. That's not a problem. The get, as it's transferred, so to speak, transfers the torch from one to the other. But by Kiddushin it doesn't work that way. By lo b'yakol adam motzei the Kaddish. Kiddushin, you can't be a Kaddish woman against her will, right? Yeah, therefore, each individual, because you need her to be masculine. So therefore, this is something which is not a true authorization. And it's true even if you have, of course it's true if you have money for Kiddushin. Because money, he doesn't have to spend the same money. But I think it's even true if you have a shtar. The shtar Kiddushin is not something which invests all the authority in the husband, which he can then give over to the shliach, rather it invests authority in the wife as well. Therefore, the wife would have to. He doesn't have the authority to take this document and pass on to the next guy and make the next guy shliach. Now, 1 second. The Ritbaz brings down the most Achronim say this is the halach of the Kodesh Miradush. Kodesh Miradush is a famous halach on the Chassidus, which I never understood and still don't understand, which is the halach of Mili Lomim Sor L'Shliach, and it applies to Kiddushin. What? Right. So the Ritbaz says. Yeah, the Korban doesn't say the Kodesh Miradush, does it? Right, but the Ritbaz brings down the Kodesh Miradush. Kodesh Miradush, I don't know exactly if that's the way it's read. It's obviously a martyr from some French city. Maybe it's Radus or Radus, I don't know. But in any event, the bottom line is that the Ritbaz tries to explain this to you differently, because the Kodesh Miradush's psak is in itself a machlekes achronim, whether he's correct or not correct. Whether when he said that you can't give over, that Kiddushin is milei, can't be given over to another shliach, that whether that's in fact correct or incorrect. But the way the Korban happened in Moshe, that's the import of the sugya. Because the sugya is telling us that Kiddushin is milei. Get is vested in the get. When that transfers down, the shlichus transfers. Kiddushin is vested in the transaction, because she has to acquiesce, and therefore can't be passed on from individual shliach to another individual shliach. I understand what I just said, but I don't know the svara of it. I never really understood the svara. But that's really what in other words, especially, let me go back to the case example I gave you before, especially cases.
The shliach is authorized to do a mechanical act. A mechanical act without handing over a document. But the shliach is never authorized to initiate the statement on behalf of the Baal. He can only do a mechanical act. He cannot initiate.
But the Baal could send. The problem I have with that is the Baal could send him to one woman. Baal could make his own shliach. Why can the shliach then make a shliach? Avraham made Eliezer the shliach, or Yitzchak made Eliezer shliach. Why can then Eliezer make love on the shliach? That's the Kodesh Miradush is coming to address.
But we're saying that the first shliach
does work.
It does work?
Yeah, Milah Mitzvah Shliach means the second guy can't give it over. I mean, the first guy can't give it to the second guy. Milah Mitzvah Shliach is not going to the first shliach. It's going from the authorization transfer from shliach to shliach. And that's to say, by get, the authorization can transfer because of transfer the document. By Kiddushin, the document does not affect the complete transfer. Okay.
The college does acquiesce. She's machal that the shliach.
No, because he never became the shliach. He has no right to be makadosh on his part. He was authorized to act. So again, that's the Kodesh Minara Shishita, and the Ritbaz tries. What? No. Okay, I may be capable to say. I'm sorry, brings the halacha above. Sorry, brings the chutzatz b'chala. Oh, we just read that Mishnah. Sorry, I read that it's part of the next Mishnah. Right now we're past it. Go back to the one after Mishnah, right? Aram said, "Look, chayin tzricha." This is what we're talking about. This is what the issue is. This is the question. Vusha ba be'eretz Yisrael. It's got to be in Eretz Yisrael already. So the shliach brought the chutzor. It got it. So he can't appoint another shliach in chutzor. Why? Because when he gets when he points on the shliach, it's got to say farinechtam. But farinechtam only works when he gets there. It's Yisrael already, right? So the whole possibility of pointing another shliach is only when he already reached Eretz Yisrael, right? So Shalotov, so what's the Chiddush? The Chiddush is the Chumrah. Shalotov, he shouldn't say, Hol Bal Eretz Yisrael, Yasa Gita Eretz Yisrael. Once he gets to Eretz Yisrael, it's like Gita Eretz Yisrael. Gita ain't Eretz Yisrael, ain't Tzarech Lamar Fanei Nechta, my Gita Eretz Yisrael, they don't say Fanei Nechta, so that's the time. No! It's true by Gita Eretz Yisrael, say Fanei Nechta, but this is the get which came to Chutzor. What really the Gemara wants to ask, I think, although the Ritbaz, I forgot what the Ritbaz says, even though I have it underlined, you might say something more piquant. But what I think the Gemara is trying to say is that I might have thought they invated to corner the Rabbanim for nechtam in extenuating circumstances altogether. That's what God tells us. They weren't mevatel takon; they were just lenient in how it's carried out. Okay, so as it says that you bring it to the first base and you say for nechtam. Anyway. So it says more of a Gita Eretz Yisrael, so more for the Nechta, you might have said that in the commercially does. Now, Chol HaShliach. What if the Shliach got sick, meaning the second Shliach? The first Shliach gave the get to the second Shliach now got sick. So, in Kiddushin, of course, Kaddish Miradosh, Mila Mimsa the Shliach. But I'm talking about Gittin. I'm Rechina Bechanina Braid Rabbi Abba, Havli Uvda, you had such a case. I'm sorry, you had such a case. V'shalach, he asked a question and sent the question to Rabbi Chia and Rabbi Yaso, Rabbi Yami. Verlain, he said, Ein hashliach Aaron tzar shuvah farinechtam. Now, the shliach, even the third shliach doesn't say farinechtam, ela oimer shliach beisinani. So each one who carries the get says shliach beisin when he finishes the shlichus. So it says more of it, and he has an addition. He's got to give him over the entire shlichuso. Meaning, does he have to say over, I'm a shliach of Reuven, who's the shliach of Shimon, who's the shliach of Levi? Does he have to give over the whole history of the get? Does he have to sign off or whatever's occurred till now, or just stay on, I'm a shliach basement? And Basin takes care of it because we say that only get made in Basin be made properly. So says the Gemara, so Tzarech Limsar Kol Shlichus got to tell him the whole history. Rabbi Yirmiyah Amar Tzarech Limsar Kol Shlichus, so he's got to give over the whole history. Rabbi Yirmiyah Kana Amar Ein Tzarech Limsar Kol Shlichus, you don't have to give over the whole history. My say law, and they bring a riot for Rabbi Avim Bar Kana, Minadah for the following case. Our case, the last shliach does not say farinechtam, it's not necessary. All he has to say is shliach based, I'm a shliach based. That's all he has to say. And he doesn't have to say, I'm somebody else's shliach, God is somebody else's shliach. All he has to say shliach based. That's enough. That trumps all other possible explanations and not necessary. Okay? Rabbi Yirmiyah said, he reneged on the deal. Why? Because it says like this. He doesn't say farinechtam, el oimer shliach beisin ani. Or he says I'm shliach beisin. Now, what's the deal from here? It says he doesn't have to say, what doesn't he have to say? It says in this brayso, farinechtam. But the flip side of that is that he has to say everything else. That's the one thing he doesn't have to say. But he has to say everything else, including I'm Reuven Shliach, Hu Shimon Shliach, and so on and so forth down the line. So all that's necessary when it comes to basing, besides saying Shliach Beitzani, to say who Shliach he actually was. Okay, almost finished. Hamavamos, shifting gears out of Gittin. Hamavamos is a Kohen, Vesal Levi. If I loan money to a Kohen or a Levi, Vesal you're a poor person. So Kohen is for Truma, Levi is for Meiser Sheni, and Ani is for Meiser Ani. Now all these people are just getting cash. They're not getting any grain. But what I'm doing is Lios Mavish Le Michelkon, I am separating tithes in my field and saying this tithe would be for Truma, this tithe would be for Meiser, this tithe would be for Meiser Ani. And I'm never actually intended to deliver them and sell them open market, but I pay the Kohen off ahead of time and Levi off another time, and I'm deducting from that principal which I have in the first Kohen bank account, right? So let's say I have or first Levi bank account. Let's say I have $1,000 in the first Levi bank account, so I continue to keep Truma for myself until I reach, instead of having given this Levi the Truma, since he owes me $1,000, I keep it to defray the cost of the $1,000 that he owes me. Is that clear? Okay. What? Taif? Tithe is Meiser, yes. Tithe, yes. T-I-T-H-E. Okay, you weren't in the first fee spelling bee this year? Okay. So that's what it means, Trumas and Meisers. That's tithing. What?
I want to soda and chips in the classroom.
Oh, the classroom? Okay, so come on, Jerry. The whole class gets soda and chips? Okay, so very kosher. Okay. So says the Gemara, says the Mishnah, actually, we're still in the Mishnah. So why I bring this down here? So you can continue deducting from whatever you are owed. You continue deducting from your portion. Furthermore, you assume that the person to whom you give the money is still alive. We don't assume that he became dead, or or maybe if you made a stipulation with a poor rich person that he became poor. Mesu, if they died, you have to continue, and you will need to have some loans outstanding. You must ask permission from the heirs. If they based in lito rishus, and if the initial avot to the Kohen Levi or whoever it was took place in Basin, so even if the initial Kohen or Levi who's involved dies, we still say that the loan stands and the agreement stands because it's in the Shevet called Kuna's best interest to not have to go collect Truma all the time, but I have to accept a flat fee in lieu of the Truma. Okay? Rabbi B'Shem Reish Lakish said to Rabbi Yossi, this goes to Rabbi Yossi. The tzir that we learned over there, Rabbi Yossi, Kol Sheish Chalivim B'Yad Kohen, and the Kohen possesses some cash in lieu of what you would be required to give him. But you don't have to give him out in the schooner, which are the Zrola Chayim and Keva, the forearm, the jowls, and the stomach of jowls are this part over here. That you know, okay. The forearm, the jowls, and the keva, one of the stomachs, I forget which one, go to the Kohen. So if you have individuals who by Kohanim owe you money, so you can deduct what they from what they owe you, the cost is Royal Chaim and Keva. Rameir Chaim says you can't do such business with matanos. Says the Gemara, I don't understand. Klumam Rabbi Yossi, when Rabbi Yossi say that, lo b'karmen outside where the guy's still alive. So that's the case, Ad Kedun. Until now we should say, boy, it should be instead of Mizrah, it says, boy, Meida. But why don't we make you find out if the Kohen to whom you give the stuff is still alive or not? Because otherwise, what he deducted from your money might not be there anymore. The Kohen with whom you made the arrangement might have kicked the proverbial bucket. So how come you can still continue the relationship? What happened to Shema Yomus, right? So says the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan said, it's a Kohen you know, a Levi you know. That doesn't mean that since you know them, they're still alive. What it means is that when a Makir Kuna, the entire transaction takes place up front. It's loaded in the front. And therefore, all the money which I gave that Kohen or Levi or Oni to be mafresh, my Trumas and Mises corresponding to that money in their Karen, in their account. So that only is necessarily a safeguard of limited amounts of. It won't work to be trying to be serious about it. It won't work if the kinyan occurs at the end. In other words, if after I eat the Trumas and Mises, it's deducted, so it's no good because by that time the guy might be dead. And remember, we said we're afraid, guys. They don't say people are dead, but afraid they will be dead, right? Shem Yomus Armina, they have no chazak in the future. So how come I can be mafish the stock or whatever it is on the basis of the assumption? Maybe the guy's already dead. So says tomorrow, Rabbi Voshem, Rabbi Yochanan said again, Makire Kuna will reveal Masisa. If it's Makire Kuna, the transaction is all loaded. I'm repeating it. The transaction all takes place initially when the guy is alive and kicking. It's as if that point he was makna to you all the trumas and mitzvahs you're going to get corresponding to his money. Midoraisa mos konos, right? So they gave it a status here as if he already made the kinyan. And therefore, it's as if he already made the kinyan. So therefore, even if he dies later on, the kinyan already took place. The agreement is cemented in place by the makirim aspect. By the fact that he's my buddy and we're making an agreement, okay? So it says, maybe that's true by Kohen and Leviim, but it says a poor person already. Also, V'yesh Makrolani, do Aniyim have got, now I don't know the question what the Gemara is asking, I have no clue what's part of the Gemara. There's a Gabait Tzedakah. Could be a Makir Gabait Tzedakah. But I guess the Pshat is the Gabait Tzedakah is just the conduit to get the money to the Aniyim. So even though he agrees up front, it's meaningless, right? Has to go to the specific aniyim. And if it has to go to the specific aniyim, you're not their friend. You don't have an agreement with them that already takes place everything ahead of time. So if you don't have makir them that you can have this gentleman's agreement, why are we not afraid Shema Yomus? And the Gemara never gives an answer. We simply do not know. Okay? Says Ma'asa Uvdu Kumi Rabbi Ami. The case came for Rabbi Ami by it says here Kohen, which should be a Ben Levi. Shoyach Chayv Yisrael Mosi owed a Jew money. Rav Amarlon, he said, Afreshli Michoki. You know what? So corresponding to money which I owe you, deduct from my portion of my in your crop. Amarlon, he said, how can we do this? Below here that we learn Ela Malve Mos, Esa Koyen, Vesa Levi, Vesa Ani Lios Mafish Olein, Michelko to deduct upon the value of my Trumas and Mises. V'she'avo Amanas Kain. It's a off branch of Makir Kudas that the original transaction take place with that understanding. Whereas in this case over here, the original transaction is a regular loan. You want to introduce the understanding ahead of time. Who gives you the right to make it work? So it says more Loeva Amnas Kain didn't loan him on this assumption. So Rabbi Zira Amar if you Loeva Amnas Kain. Doesn't matter. You can make the arrangement after the time as well. Even the initial loan didn't take this account. Rabbi Zira proves the point from here. If Ben Levi owes a Jew money, it says, it says, deduct from the money I owe you whatever you take from my portion of Meiser. However, what he can't do is he can't collect and deduct. She'ein Levi osa Levi, because one Levi can't make another Levi. Meaning he cannot say to other Leviim, sell me at a discount your rights to Trumas U'Maisus, right? I'm not sure exactly how it works. I don't know exactly what the Gemara means. I was trying to figure out how do you make the business deal stick, which the Gemara is trying to negate. Somehow or another, he cannot say to other Leviim, maybe I guess, how to work. I thought I understood how it worked, but I don't know also. No, I don't remember. It's something like that,
Doesn't he cash out the future truths myself?
The Levi pays other Leviim for the future mitzvahs. But it says, lo.
Zero.
No, that's how it says. More. V'chein b'Levi shulay. Lo ye go v'marpi she'ein Levi also Levi. What does it mean Levi can't make another Levi? That's what I understand.
Look the coordinator.
Yeah.
Somebody changes around, doesn't change around the wording, but change around the meaning. So she didn't go around favor of the family color.
How does that help? I have it underlined in my Gemara coordinator, but now it doesn't help me.
For a second, I have a flash of understanding.
That's what happened to me before. I empathize with the feeling, but I don't remember my flash. Oh, I see what it is now. Okay, look at the Pnei Moshe, see what it is. The Pnei Moshe explains that Shein Levi also Levi means the Levi can't authorize the Yisrael to go collect other mitzvahs on his behalf. In other words, Levi could say to Yisrael, listen, I get to collect mitzvahs because I'm a Levi. I relinquish your authorization to you. Can you give me a nice big loan? So that he can't do. On his own loan, he could say, you're allowed to keep whatever mitzvahs you get, right? But he can't say, give me he can't say, he can't make him a designated Levi. That's what he can't do. He can't make him a designated Levi. Okay? Deal. Right? Lo yagov amafish ein Levi over also Levi. That doesn't work. Now, Shalom Amar Ella Shalom.
Anyway, to anybody else.
Right, because my Kori Levia doesn't give me the right to extend it to any other person to vie as an agent of Levia. Shloya Goivo Marpish, or Mishalo Marpish, but on his own, obviously Levi can make any deal he wants. So therefore, Levi makes a deal, even if the loan already was extended in the past, the Levi can be Michael Schmeises in the future based on the pre-existing loan. Okay, we'll stop here for now.